My name is Ben Nisbet. I am a violinist with the Tucson Symphony Orchestra. I also happen to hold a master's degree from the University of Arizona here as well. And I am the musical director of a relatively new organization called the Artifact Dance Project. Now, what you just heard was something that actually does not regularly take place in the world of contemporary dance and ballet anymore, due to the shifting climates of economics and social tastes and things like that. Live music is really no longer a part of any type of artistic presentation outside of music itself. So when you go and you see a ballet company or a contemporary dance company or even a jazz dance company, chances are very, very high that you're going to be hearing recorded music. Hopefully no feedback either. Chances are very high that you'll be hearing recorded, or as we sort of disrespectfully refer to it in our industry, canned music. So what my wife, Ashley, and I did, along with another partner of ours by the name of Claire Hancock, just a few years ago, we decided to start a company that would be the only company of its kind, especially in this part of the country, that was focused completely and specifically on presenting contemporary dance with live music.
Yeah, so Claire, our other partner in crime's not here tonight, but the three of us work very closely together to program our concerts. So for instance, this one we're having at the end of March is about Alice in Wonderland. And this is how it works. Claire and I decide we want to do a dance. We want a narrative, so we pick Alice in Wonderland. Then we sit down with Ben and we say, what music do you want to play? Here's the story, what do you think? Instead of the other process, which happens a lot in choreography, where the choreographer knows exactly what he or she wants. They know what dance they're going to do, they know the music that they want, they know, pretty much the whole vision is in their head. Well, with Artifact Dance Project, we kind of break it down into steps. So for instance, Claire and I asked Ben, what music do you think would work for Alice in Wonderland? And then he says,
X, Y, Z. Could be just about anything.
Yeah, Mozart, Liszt, Piano Works, Prokofiev quintets, whatever. He comes with us with all these different recordings. And then in addition to that, we have contacts across the country through Ben's schooling, through friends of Claire and I, through our master's program here at the University of Arizona School of Dance. And we're working with contemporary composers like Rob McClure, who's composing a new piece for us. And maybe Ben, talk a little bit about that new composition.
So what we're talking about here with this whole entire concept, and not just the composition, is the concept that in order for musical organizations, artistic organizations, to make their way into the future, the most important element of what they can do from an artistic and from a business model standpoint is collaboration. It's no longer feasible for artistic organizations to exist on islands by themselves. The best thing that you can do is to reach out into your community and say, I'm a musical organization, I want to work with this dance company, I want to work with this visual art company, with this museum, with this charity, with this educational organization that allows you to embrace a larger sense of not only artistic creation, but community and economic development. So what we like to do with each of our major series productions that we do on a yearly basis is to commission new works by contemporary composers. It just so happens that this particular composition that we're dealing with on this piece, which is a piece for amplified string quartet, electronic playback, and digital delay, which I'll get to in just a second, is not only an incredibly cutting edge and interesting piece of music, but it's just about as collaborative as you can imagine it to be. Because this is one of the very few pieces that you'll see performed today where the string quartet, in our case, the musicians on the stage, are actually playing the music while the composer himself is manipulating electronics to change the music in a live, real-time way. So this is going to be a very, very different musical aesthetic experience from the other pieces that are on the program, which are written by composers that some of you may be more familiar with, like Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart or Sergei Prokofiev or Claude Debussy.
And then you have to think about, well, how do you choreograph to a new composition like this? For instance, a piece that I'm choreographing to Mozart this month for a show in March, it's very easy to choreograph to. You just count it in sixes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe a couple times there's a pause, but that's pretty much how I can count it. And as a choreographer teaching movement to dancers, we don't read music, a lot of dancers. We dance to it doesn't mean that we read it or can write it. So we count it much differently than musicians do. In fact, Ben kind of scoffs at the way I count music. But we have to. That's how we learn. That's how I have to teach the dancers the movement. So how do you teach movement to a piece that's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but more like 1 beep 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 1? You know, you can't use counts. You have to take a different approach. So this is my approach to a contemporary piece of music with a very loose meter to it. Set the dance, press play, and hope it works, you know? And usually it does, because once you press play after I've set this piece, then we kind of mold the dance to the piece. And we go, oh, okay, there's a big noise there. Let's sync up that movement, you know, during that noise or that note. And then we play the music over and over again. Because I think what maybe the world of music and a lot of people outside of dance don't understand is to choreograph 3 minutes of music can take as many as 2 weeks to set. Can take that much time to set. So it's a more, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a more tedious process, but it's a different process. And so it's really important that the dancers who you're working with are just right there with you. And then once the dancers are right there with you, we get on stage for the first time, and we have to be right there with the musicians. Because when it's live music, you don't know if the tempo might be a little quicker one night or a little slower the other night. And maybe Ben talk about how we sync that up.
Well, I think that there's a mutual fear between the camps of the musicians and the camps of the dancers that those differences are going to exist on a nightly basis. But what you come to realize is that that's sort of one of the beautiful parts of this sense of live creation and this using of live music. It's something that's living, it's something that's breathing and changes on a regular basis. And I guess you could sort of tie that back to what Ashley was talking about before with the idea of having to create choreography to a completely different type of music, something maybe that you've never even heard before. You can actually allow yourself to be affected by what you're hearing instead of having a predetermined concept of what you're going to do with it. And you might end up creating something completely different from what people are expecting. And I think in a very important way, this actually represents a very, very different way of looking at how choreography can be done as it relates to the types of music that we would normally want to create choreography to.
It's an amazing process. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. When you're on stage, and the musicians are usually in the pit in front of you, and sometimes in our company we have musicians on stage. And we actually integrate them into the dance, not making them dance, but I'm working on that. But maybe dancing around them and theatrically making it, you know, integrating it well. And you know, music from a stereo, it comes out of the stereo, and in the studio it stops. It stops about right here in front of you. And this is going to sound weird the way I'm describing this. It stops right here. When I'm on stage, when I'm dancing with live music, the music goes like this past you. And it's interesting. It's an interesting feeling, and it affects the movement, and it affects the way you feel. And really, in the end, it's just more human. And that's what our company is all about. We collaborate with artists, with musicians, with dancers, and we try to make the process as human as possible.